We basically take in injured and orphaned wild animals, native wild animals. Well, it starts kind of in February, but it starts getting really busy April, May through August. Because that's when all the animals are becoming more territorial, they're mating, and they're starting to have babies. And being so that all of these animals are becoming urban wildlife, people are finding them. You know, they're finding babies. We do get a lot of raptors in, but we'll keep them depending on the rest of the animal flow that we have. If we have space and time, we'll hang on to those to critical care them, and like the little babies, we'll hang on to it for a while. But we don't have the large flights, so they end up going up to the Raptor Center in Ojai. The only ones we don't do are bear, mountain lion, and deer. These guys are about 5 weeks, and barn owls, they're all different. They can have a nest with all different sizes in the nest. So these guys are about 4 to 5 weeks old, and I'll hang on to them and feed them up until I start getting a lot of the species that I normally do, and then I'll send these guys up to the Ojai Raptor Center. Nobody gets into it wanting to be at the level they're at. That just doesn't happen. They, get into it going, I want to work, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, picking up animals, not getting any pay and no sleep and no food. Nobody does that. But I think what happens is you start with one animal and you do it, and then there's just so many animals out there that need help that I guess the chosen few who stick with it are committed.
Well, it started off on a normal Sunday morning. First thing we do is we check on all the animals, basically doing our rounds. When I entered our giraffe barn to just check on, the adults, see how they're doing, there in the corner was little Daniel laying down, head up, just looking at me. I kind of had to quickly close the door and, gather myself for a minute and take another look just to make sure I wasn't seeing things. And first thing that actually came to my mind was one of my coworkers was playing a joke on me, putting a stuffed animal in there or something. But little Daniel looked over at me, blinked his eyes, and I knew we had a whole new situation going on here. We've had a couple of other births besides Daniel the giraffe. We recently had a golden lion tamarin birth, which is a type of monkey found primarily in the rainforest of Brazil. And that is our second tamarin that we've had born here in the Santa Barbara Zoo in the last couple of years.
Some animals at the zoo have very seasonal birthing patterns, and so it coincides with when resources are available or when it's warm enough. Also during the rains, some animals that's very important to them, and some animals it's not. They just breed whenever it's convenient for the parents. Tamarins are usually born January or February, occasionally into March. A lot of times you'll see different seasonal patterns between where their home ranges are in South America and what you see in North America, so it's very based on resources and weather. So this is normal breeding time for the tamarins.
Winter and spring is when we get our rains, so that's what prompts the amphibians to come out. And then after the rains, when it starts to dry out, that's what prompts a lot of the reptiles to come out, and then the birds as well. All that rain, what that's done is produced lots of lush plant life, which has produced lots of food for birds. So the birds will come out and feed on the different types of plants that have flourished as a result of that. And it just kind of trickles on down. That also produces lots of food for rodents. Rodents come out, so some of the birds like hawks and eagles and other raptors will feed on the rodents. And the birds that eat parts of plants, they'll come out and they'll feed on that lush growth that happened after the rain. So that's a time of plenty. And so they have enough food and they have enough shelter. So that's what then prompts them to go into breeding modes because they have enough energy to do it. And so they'll find mates and they'll breed and nest and hatch and raise their young, because that's the time of plenty, basically, springtime.
When people want to see a baby, you've got great undivided attention when you can really make them understand things that are going on with these critically endangered animals. Also, it's a great way to talk about how they're reproducing in the wild and some of the things. You can see how fragile they are. You can really see how important it is to have family groups and have the right resources. So that's a great connector with people. But really, you want people to understand and have an emotional connection. These animals are ambassadors for them, and you want them to feel something that makes them realize how special and important these animals are. And babies are a great way for that. They really make that emotional connection in people that makes them want to do something to save them or change their behaviors that can really affect animals in the wild.